Hi, I'm Micah Halpern. Thank you for joining me today as I do some thinking out loud. Our first segment is called Background Briefing. The first thing I've been thinking about is the First Amendment. The limits of freedom of speech and whether green card holders and student visa holders can be deported. I often find myself in conversations with people who loudly profess their opinions as if they were fact, but who, in fact, have no or little knowledge of the subjects they're speaking about. And yet they opine, they gesticulate, and they carry on as if they are acknowledged experts in the field. They are confusing feelings with fact. My job is to expose these highly emotional, grossly misinformed people to real information and to guide them through a deeper understanding of the issues at hand. I do that here on TV, and of course I do that in my writing. Of course, they are free to express their opinions as loudly as they want, with as much fervor as they can muster, but that doesn't make them right. The current debate about freedom of speech and the deportation of Mahmoud Khalil, the former graduate student and rebel rouser, leader of Columbia University's pro-Hamas rallies, is a perfect case in point. Most infuriating for me is that many of the people espousing their views shape their opinions on the irresponsible and ill-informed opinions of commentators from media outlets with once highly august names. Analysts who spew incorrect details, proclaim violations of freedom of speech and the right to assembly. Outlets egg on their minions with totally incorrect information, all in the name of justice and freedom. While they are correct that the First Amendment of the United States Constitution clearly protects freedom of expression, and that the case law extends that right to everyone, not just citizens, and they are correct here. The First Amendment reads, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances." That's it. One could think that Mahmoud Khalil and his supporters would therefore be on very solid ground, both in their protest and in their speech, that his right to free speech and his right to assemble and protest is indeed protected under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. But they are not. There are two very important caveats. First, freedom of speech is not without limits. While you may speak, your speech is limited. One may not incite violence or interfere or encroach on the rights of others with that speech or the assembly. We can debate how involved Khalil was in preventing Columbia students from going to class or preventing their movement around campus or stimulating people to attack Jewish students or deface property. If he was involved, and we have photos and video to prove that he was, then his right to speak is no longer protected. Second, all green card holders must answer and sign a series of serious questions in order to qualify for the card that grants them the privilege to live and work in the United States permanently. Everyone, including Mahmoud Khalil, had to answer the question, do you intend to engage in any activity that could endanger the safety and security of the United States? Another question this card-carrying supporter of Hamas had to answer is, have you ever served in, been a member of, assisted, parentheses, helped, or participated in any armed group, a group that carries weapons? These are questions that trump the First Amendment. The United States Department does not grant a green card to anyone who acknowledges their involvement in any of these activities. And if it is discovered that a green card holder, or for that matter a student visa holder, it's the same principle, has been involved and lied while answering those questions, their status is revoked without due process, without a trial, without a judge. This is not opinion. This is the Immigration and Naturalization Act, which squarely places the power to revoke and deport exclusively in the hands of the Secretary of State of the United States. That person is, of course, Marco Rubio today. By Khalid's own admission, he assisted, helped. He defended Hamas's October 7th massacre. The issue is a slam dunk. Now, as to the practical implication of case law. Khalil is free to leave the United States at any time. He is not free to wander, however, around the country and advocate for genocide and support Hamas. That he is not allowed to do. If he wants to leave, he may leave. If he is in violation, he will be forced to leave. In the 1969 United States Supreme Court ruling, Brandenburg versus Ohio, having nothing to do with immigration and naturalization, establishes the limitations of free speech. Speech is not protected if the speech is, quote, directed to incite lawless action or, quote, likely to incite or produce such action, unquote. That is very clear. Add to that a very powerful and on-point decision by a federal court judge, Brett Kavanaugh, before he was elevated to the Supreme Court. In the case of Bullman versus the FEC in 2012, Kavanaugh writes that aliens' First Amendment rights may be less robust than those of citizens in certain discrete areas. In addition, in Reno versus American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee in 1999, the Supreme Court ruled that, quote, when an alien's continuing presence is in violation of the immigration laws, the government does not offend the Constitution by deporting him for the additional reason that it believes him to be a member of an organization that supports terrorist activity, unquote. That case was decided by the United States Supreme Court in 1999 under the tenure of Democratic President Bill Clinton. Janet Reno was the Attorney General. The issue is crystal clear. Khalil and anyone on a student visa or a green card who supports Hamas can be deported without a judge's imprimatur. Mahmoud Khalil can rightly be deported from the United States. It does not matter how many pundits in those august media outlets proclaim it to be a violation of his freedom of speech. They are simply wrong. Today's columns center on the Trump proposal for Gaza, that the United States should take control, clear, and rebuild Gaza. The first piece was published in Newsweek. The piece sets the context and then asks 4 experts for short responses to the Trump plan. These responses are from Western thinkers. The second piece is from Al Jazeera, where we see how the Arab world relates to the very same issue of the Trump plan for Gaza. Newsweek begins by setting the stage. They write, President Donald Trump has suggested a plan for the United States to take control of Gaza and relocate its Palestinian residents to nearby countries like Egypt and Jordan. While the proposal has faced strong international resistance, Trump took to Truth Social to elaborate on his plans for Gaza, stating, and I'm quoting here, the Gaza Strip would be turned over to the United States by Israel at the conclusion of fighting. Trump continues, they would actually have a chance to be happy, safe, and free, unquote. Now Newsweek reached out to 4 experts to assess whether Trump's plan for Gaza is feasible and what its potential consequences could be. The first person they asked is Yoram Hazony, an American Israeli who lives in Jerusalem. He's president of the Herzl Institute. He responds, an independent Palestinian state was already tried for 18 years, from 2005 to 2023. The results of this experiment were horrific for Jews and for Arabs alike. Realistically, there's no going back. President Trump is right to want to try something new in Gaza. His plan has an excellent chance of advancing peace in the Middle East. Next, they ask David Makovsky from the Washington Institute. Makovsky responds, the question is whether Trump's idea about Gaza is a plan or a ploy. I tend to think it more of a negotiating ploy than a plan. I say this because President Trump likes to do maximalist opening gambits in order to extract negotiating leverage, like we saw on the tariffs, believing it enables you to get an outcome more to your liking. Indeed, it will be interesting if Jordan's King Abdullah and Egypt's President Sisi are so keen to avert the Trump plan that they don't just do what they usually do and put the ball in Israel's court, but actually come up with their own ideas for a solution to Gaza. Now, Newsweek turns to Dr. David Mendikoff, a professor at UMass Amherst, who responds in the following way. Out-of-the-box thinking is a way forward for Gaza, Palestinians, Israelis, and others in the Middle East that can be comprehensive, well-funded, and stable. Because President Trump has shown willingness to pressure Prime Minister Netanyahu, the U.S. has good relations with leading Arab states, and Iran is feeling vulnerable. An initiative that is creative could actually be successful and could provide both Trump and the people in the Middle East a big win. This kind of regional grand bargain, backed by guarantees from the United States and major regional powers, including a mechanism for Palestinians and Israelis to vote directly for the agreement by referendum, could lead to President Trump's possible goal of trying something new that can lead to a true economic benefits for the region and the U.S. Lastly, they asked Dr. Tom Ginsburg, a professor of international law at University of Chicago. He responds, "This seems like a distraction. It's not remotely feasible. First, what does the president think will happen to 2 million angry, traumatized Palestinians? Assuming Trump is not offering them citizenship, they're not likely to become happy residents of the countries they are expelled to. Palestinians have held onto their initial displacement of 1947, which involved roughly a third as many people, for nearly 80 years. Why would a new mass displacement help? Not only that, it would make America the target of the ire of various terrorist groups whose popularity would grow. Second, the Israeli military has turned Gaza into rubble without being able to remove Hamas. Does the president really want American troops with far less experience going into tunnels of Gaza with associated casualties? Of course not. He would have to explain to the American people why we should put lives at risk to get involved in a war that has gone on arguably for over 100 years. That is not going to happen. So I view the whole thing as a distraction. Newsweek has collected the ideas that cover the board. Had they asked me, I would have said that Trump loves to shake things up. This is a perfect example. People are still reeling and countering with alternative proposals. This is just the beginning. Next up is a piece from Al Jazeera. It was published on February 13th, 2025. It's entitled, Trump's Gaza Plan, Why it is Unworkable and Globally Rejected. Subtitled, Trump Wants the U.S. to Take Over Gaza. What does that mean? This is how Al Jazeera begins. President Donald Trump ignited a firestorm of controversy with his latest remarks suggesting that the United States should take over and own Gaza. We take a look at what he proposed and reactions to it. Trump has made controversial claims about Gaza, primarily around the idea that the U.S. should take control of the territory, remove its people, and develop it, redevelop it. Why are Trump's comments generating so much condemnation? Their first point, forced displacement. His proposal to remove Gaza's population has been called ethnic cleansing by human rights organizations. Under international law, forcibly relocating civilians is a war crime. Second, violation of Palestinian rights. Palestinians have a deep connection to their land, Gaza. Removing them would be a second Nakba, mirroring the ethnic cleansing of nearly 1 million Palestinians by Zionist gangs to clear the way for the declaration of the State of Israel in 1948. Third, unrealistic and unworkable. The idea of removing millions of people to build a luxury resort in a war-torn area is widely seen as impractical, detached from reality, and morally unacceptable. Fourth, could Trump do this? No, he can't. Trump does not have the legal, military, or diplomatic power to enforce his idea. Fifth, no authority over Gaza. Gaza is not U.S. territory, and the U.S. has no jurisdiction there. Also, experts argue the U.S. wouldn't commit the financial and logistical resources to do this. Sixth, mass relocation is nearly impossible. In Trump's mind, it would be possible to force 2 million Palestinians from their land, most of whom do not want to go. Seventh, international laws condemn it. During a Fox interview, Trump said he did not plan to allow Gazan population to return. The involuntary deportation or displacement of civilian population constitutes a breach of international humanitarian law. And finally, number 8, neighboring countries do not agree. Egypt, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia have explicitly rejected the idea, and the United States can't force them to accept it. However, Egypt and Jordan are very reliant on U.S. aid and may need to start looking elsewhere for funding to get away from the United States. This Al Jazeera piece is not totally correct. It makes some serious errors, but the overall gist is pretty clear. The Arab world rejects the Trump idea, the proposal itself, and that Egypt and Jordan reject it also. And as a result, they should probably start looking for other benefactors and sponsors other than the United States, because the United States is going to start pressuring them. Coming up, commentary through cartoons where pictures tell the story. I'm going to show you cartoons today. The first cartoon is about Syria and their crisis. We have no idea of what kind of government will emerge in Syria. The new leader, al-Shara, promised a constitution. But as you can see from the cartoon, that is simply not happening. Next up is a biting critique of Syria. The 3 stars on the Syrian flag represent the 3 large communities in Syria: the Shiites, the Christians, and the Alawites. After a massive massacre of Alawites by the leading faction, the cartoonist places only 2 stars on the flag. Next up is a cartoon of Trump attacking the Houthis for attacking ships, commercial ships, and U.S. naval ships in the Red Sea. This final cartoon professes Syrian unity. But we have already discussed there is no unity in Syria. Syria is in flux right now and in serious trouble internally. Real big trouble. The next few months will be brutal for the people of Syria, where internal fighting is just starting. In a moment, more of my own perspective and a few predictions. IDF spokesperson's unit announced the targeted elimination of Osama Tabash, a senior Hamas military intelligence leader in southern Gaza. Tabash was the head of Hamas's military intelligence, surveillance, and targeting unit. He was directly involved in the planning of attacks against Israel, including 2005 suicide bombing that killed ISA coordinator Oded Sharon. His elimination impairs Hamas's intelligence gathering capabilities and its attempts to harm IDF troops operating in the area. The military statement read, "This is a result, by the way, of the new strategy implemented by the new IDF Chief of Staff, General Samir." U.S. President Donald Trump awarded Boeing a contract to build the United States Air Force's most sophisticated fighter jet, known as the Next Generation Air Dominance. 2 sources familiar with the situation said the NGAD program will replace Lockheed Martin's F-22 Raptor with a crewed aircraft built to enter combat alongside drones. The plane's design remains a closely held secret, but would likely include stealthiness, advanced sensors, cutting-edge engines. Trump is bringing the business to America and not purchasing foreign-made planes. Palestinian terror group Hamas is to blame for the deaths in the Gaza Strip since hostilities resumed. The United States told the United Nations Security Council, and I'm quoting, "Hamas bears full responsibility for the ongoing war in Gaza and for the resumption of hostilities. Every death would have been avoided had Hamas accepted the bridge proposal that the United States offered." Acting United States Ambassador to the United Nations Dorothy Shea told the 50-member United Nations Security Council about the issue. Turkey's main opposition, Republican People's Party, will convene an extraordinary party congress on April 6th. Chairman Özgür Özel told reporters as his party faces broader legal crackdown from the government. The move came amid an investigation launched by an Ankara prosecutor into the party's latest Congress, which was held 2023. over irregularities. This is a classic. Iran has the right to peaceful nuclear energy and is acting in line with international law, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said. Peskov said Moscow accepted Iran's statements that it has no intention of obtaining nuclear weapons. Iran was one of the topics discussed in a long phone call between the United States President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, after which the White House said the two leaders shared the view that Iran should never be in a position to destroy Israel. Iran said it would consider the opportunities as well as the threats in a letter from Trump that urged it to reach a new nuclear deal, and it would soon respond. Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, warned the United States that, quote, any interference will be met with a harsh blow, unquote, in response to allegations by the United States President Donald Trump that Tehran is funding Houthi rebels in Yemen. Speaking during a Nowruz address, Khamenei denied having proxies in the region, insisting that local groups act independently. He added that resilience will lead to the defeat of the Zionist entity, unquote. As expected, the United States State Department approved the potential sale of advanced precision kill weapons systems to Saudi Arabia for an estimated cost of $100 million, the Pentagon reported also. The principal contractor for the sale will be BAE Systems, the Pentagon said in a statement. While Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs has bombed with critics and at the box office, Israeli actress Gal Gadot was just awarded a Hollywood star on the Walk of Fame. We've been thinking out loud about a lot today. Now that you know what I've been thinking, let me know what you're thinking. Email me at micah@jbstv.org. Tweet me at Micah Halpern. Tell me what you think. Before we end, let me leave you with one piquante piece of information. I want to show you a critical, humorous piece out of Israel by a troupe called Eretz Nehederet. The skit pokes fun at the international coverage of the kidnapped victims and Hamas's parade and pageant of the kidnapped victims. The title of the skit is Slim Tifada. I show you these not just to educate you, but also to illustrate how humor can be a serious political critique of a very difficult situation. Israel responds to October 7th in various ways, in art and music and dance, and others through humor. And this sketch is a perfect example from Eretz Nehederet of a biting critique. The problem is that we laugh at how ridiculous the situation is. But unfortunately, most of the rest of the world cannot differentiate between right and wrong. Eretz Nehederet is best translated, by the way, as It's a Wonderful Country. Let's watch.
This is the BBC Live from Gaza, where everything is ready for the weekly red carpet ceremony. After 483 days, 3 Israeli prisoners, are about to be released. Oh, all right. We can see that maybe their time with Hamas has had some sort of an effect on the prisoners.
BBC, why you say prisoners? They are not prisoners!
Oh, I'm so sorry. So you actually prefer the word hostages?
No, they are clients!
Of course, clients. Of what exactly?
Of the Hamas Wellness Center, or as we call it, Slim Tifada.
Slim Tifada? Oh, is that like your oriental answer to Ozempic?
Ayo عليك, exactly. But it's all natural and it shows results. Look at how our clients look before our treatment. When they got here, they looked like they've been through a disaster. Overweight, no energy, very unhappy. But look at them now, thin, calm. It's like they've lost 10 years.
In only 15 months. What is your secret?
Well, the most important thing is nutrition. At Slim Tifada, we say, you are what you don't eat.
mindful consumption. It's so profound. The wisdom of the Orient.
أيوة عليك. Well, frankly, it's based on a German method.
Of course.
أيوة عليك.
So where is this wellness center?
We are located in a magical and secluded underground location. Our retreat offers complete isolation, no phones, no connection to the outside world, but very close to Mother Earth. The deeper the tunnel, the deeper the inner peace.
A total digital detox. Oh, like Vipassana. It
عليك.
sounds amazing. Can I also try Slim Tifada myself?
لا. At this stage, we are open for Jews only.
Oh.
It's like an Adam Sandler movie. But we hope to expand in the future and open branches worldwide.
Thank you so much, and shukran. I can't wait to sign in.
أيوة. Yes, you will sign up for everything. مهبولة للآخر والله.
Thank you so much.
I told you that it was both funny and biting, but it is also very sad. Thank you for thinking out loud with me, Micah Halpern. Let's think out loud next week again on JBS.